Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1693B, and today's date is October 18th, 2018, and the title of the episode is The Sky is Falling, Panic, Shut It Down at Any Cost, Dead End. Now, before I get started, I wanted to talk about privacy and how the NSA, CIA, social media corporations are tracking and spying on us 24/7. First, let's take a look at what happened in the last couple of weeks. First, hackers stole 50 million Facebook user access tokens. Now, according to Facebook, hackers were able to access users' private information without requiring their original account password or validating two-factor authentication code. If we look at Google Plus is shutting down after a vulnerability exposed 500,000 users' data. Hackers had the ability to access data from more than 500,000 users, including their username, email addresses, occupation, date of birth, profile photos, and gender-related information. Social media, corporations, government, they are tracking us. They're tracking our behavior, building profiles. The information includes location, purchases, banking, and much more. So what does this mean? It means they are watching us, listening and tracking us, connecting to our microphone and camera. It is up to each and every one of us to protect ourselves. How do we do this? You use a virtual private network. I use Virtual Shield. It allows you to transport yourself somewhere else in the world, and the trackers will not know your true location. Virtual Shield VPN is one of the easiest VPNs to use in the world, one of the fastest VPNs in the world. Their no-log policy protects its users from any data breaches. That means they don't keep any logs. This month, Virtual Shield is offering 25% off VPN plans and all premium add-ons including Protection Plus, residential access, monthly maintenance, phone support, VIP performance plans for as low as $3 per month. And don't forget about IdentiSafe, which allows the customer the ability to block off computer microphone and camera access from any unwanted spies and hackers. For anyone that is paranoid about the big tech companies, government, the deep state watching and listening to every move we make and accessing our computers, well then IdentiSafe is for you. So check out the link below and start protecting you and your family because we all have the right to remain private. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, yesterday we talked about these indicted U.S. Treasury officials, and this is more important than we originally thought. The individuals indicted have close ties to demoted Department of Justice lawyer Bruce Orr and the Mueller team, and Mueller's corrupt attorney Andrew Weissman. So, on Tuesday, 40-year-old Natalie May Edwards, the senior advisor in the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, was arrested and criminally charged for leaking confidential financial documents relating to former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort. Ms. Edwards, who leaked the documents related to the Manafort case, was interviewed by Ronan Farrow 6 months ago. It now looks like that was an attempt by her to set herself up as a whistleblower rather than a leaker. Now, Ms. Edwards leaked the FinCEN documents to Jason Leopold, a reporter of BuzzFeed, according to an announcement made by Manhattan federal prosecutors. Hidden in the Department of Justice complaint is the fact that Edwards' boss at FinCEN is a criminal co-conspirator, and he holds the title of associate director. Weissman is part of the Mueller witch hunt. He is known for his speedy actions in the past. Weissman destroyed thousands of Arthur Anderson lives in the early 2000s when his actions were considered overreaching by courts. Unfortunately, Arthur Anderson was out of business when the verdict was received. Now, a couple of days before being added to the corrupt Mueller witch hunt team, Weissman met with AP reporters, and then the AP released an article about suspicious financial activity by Manafort. It's suspected that the AP article was sourced with information from Weissman, and the only way Weissman could have supplied the information to AP was through FinCEN. This information is classified, and if Weissman provided it, it may have been leaked to him by the individuals indicted yesterday. This may be the tip of the iceberg. Tony Schaefer, retired Intel operative, states that many more need to be arrested and hints that more are yet to come. Now, Rex on Twitter breaks this down for us. And he says, here's 3 questions that I would like answered. Did Mueller's special counsel team use FinCEN SAR's evidence to indict and prosecute Paul Manafort? If so, how did they obtain it? If it wasn't done legally, how was it obtained? First, a reminder. SARs are considered to be extremely confidential. The only way Mueller's special counsel could access Manafort's SARs is from FinCEN Direct under subpoena. Banks are not permitted to share them. After hours searching online, there is no reference to Mueller's subpoena anywhere. Even fake news haven't reported on FinCEN being subpoenaed, which is odd, as they've reported on just about everything else other than the subpoena Mueller has issued. That doesn't mean FinCEN weren't subpoenaed. They may have been under a grand jury subpoena, but the transcript of Manafort trial makes no mention of it, or of SAR's evidence as far as I can make out, having read it. And here's the thing. The evidence used against Manafort must have come from SARs from FinCEN. Why? Read the initial indictment. It's all based on suspicious activity, money laundering, and movement of funds across different jurisdictions. Like I said, perhaps SAR's evidence had been gathered under subpoena issued by Mueller's special counsel to FinCEN, but if so, I think we know about it from #fake news or the transcript, but we don't see this at all. Even Mueller's FinCEN witness, Paul Ellis, was in question about SARs. That's kind of weird. Of course, there's another explanation that makes sense, given today's news about the indictment of Natalie Edwards. Mueller's special counsel team got the SARs info illegally. From who? Andrew Weissman. Consider the timeline. April 11th, 2017. Weissman leaks to AP reporters information about alleged suspicious financial activity by Manafort. AP published the article below the day after the meeting with Weissman, April 12th. Where did Weissman get this information? It only can be from FinCEN sourced, as it related to Manafort's suspicious activity as far back as 2007. Things move fast against Manafort after Weissman joins Mueller's special counsel team, June 19, 2017. But again, how did they get the FinCEN SARs evidence into the mix against Manafort? Consider the subsequent timeline in light of today's events. July 26, 2017. Manafort's home is raided. October 27th. Sealed indictment against Manafort filed. October 29th. First Jason Leopold article shows he knew about the FinCEN SARs and also the Manafort indictment. October 30th. Indictment unsealed and Manafort appears in court. Again, Leopold was being leaked the SARs evidence from Edwards, FinCEN, and the indictment news from Mueller. What follows are 11 further SARs articles that also divulge internal information that can only have come from Mueller's team. So let's go back to the original 3 questions. Number 1, did Mueller's special counsel team use FinCEN SARs evidence to indict and prosecute Paul Manafort? Yes. Number 2, if so, how did they obtain it? Illegally, not via subpoena. We would know if FinCEN had been subpoenaed via the fake news, normal reporters, and or via the Manafort hearing transcript. So, number 3, if it wasn't done legally, how was it obtained? Well, we know from Weissman. Weissman brought the SARs in with him. FinCEN leaked it to Weissman. The SSIC leaked it to Weissman. Jason Leopold leaked it to Weissman. Or all the above. If what I have outlined above is true and the evidence used against Manafort was obtained illegally, his constitutional rights were abused. His lawyers can now apply the court to vacate the judgment. They have already argued this. So, if this did come out, it would shatter the Mueller special counsel probe. If they were using illegally obtained evidence and conspiring with fake news to target Manafort, he couldn't have a fair trial. It'd be impossible. Nobody would be able to have a fair trial. And I think this is what they were doing. Again, we can see that things aren't making sense, and as more evidence comes out, we're starting to put the pieces together, and we're starting to realize that they were using illegally obtained information. And again, the deep state, they play dirty. You know why? Because this is the only way they know how. Lie on top of lie on top of lie. And they had nothing on Trump. They couldn't find anything. So they had to come up with something else. And they knew they could use this and they can make headlines. Now, Bob Goodlatte was out there, and he's saying that McCabe's report shows that Obama was shielding the Clinton Foundation. Now, this is a newly released report on an investigation of Andrew McCabe. It revealed another previously unknown probe of the former FBI deputy director and provides additional evidence of the extent to which Obama's administration shielded the Clinton Foundation from government investigators. And this is coming from the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Representative Bob Goodlatte. So this is what Bob Goodlatte tweeted out. McCabe's just released disciplinary file reminds us how the Obama Justice Department sought to shut down the Clinton Foundation investigation during the 2016 presidential election. The file also shows the FBI opened a full investigation on McCabe concerning comments he made about General Michael T. Flynn and POTUS. What is this about? Well, McCabe's file also appears to be missing key material, he said. There are congressional transcripts and FBI policy documents, but no analysis whatsoever of the relationship between those and McCabe's conduct. What else is missing? The Department of Justice General Internal Review found that he had authorized a series of leaks prior to the dismissal in March 2017. The FBI Office of Public Affairs was contacted that February about an additional unreported leak, leading to the investigation a month later that was released on Monday. So as we can see, the deep state, they have been using illegal methods, they've been lying, and we're starting to figure out they're doing a lot of things behind the scenes. Now, a federal judge is out there, and this judge was completely shocked to find that the Obama State Department lied to protect Hillary from the email server lawsuits. Now, it looks like the noose appears to be tightening further around the Obama administration. And we can see from this point that Judicial Watch has been researching and looking into this, and they've been researching the consulate in Benghazi that's hooked to Clinton and Obama, looking into the email server, and Judicial Watch initially sued the State Department in 2014. They were seeking information about the response to the Benghazi attack after the government didn't respond to a Freedom of Information Act request. Other parallel lawsuits by Judicial Watch are probing issues like Clinton's server, whose existence was revealed during the course of the litigation. Now, the State Department had immediately moved to dismiss Judicial Watch's first lawsuit, but U.S. District Court Judge Royce Lamberth, who was appointed to the bench by Reagan, denied the request to dismiss the lawsuit at the time. He said he was happy he did, charging that State Department officials had intentionally misled him because other key documents, including those on Clinton's email server, had not in fact been produced. And this is what he went on to say. It was clear to me that at the time that I ruled initially that false statements were made to me by career State Department officials, and it became more clear through discovery that the information that I was provided was clearly false regarding the adequacy of the search, and this, what we now know, turned out to be the Secretary's email system. I don't know the details of what kind of IG inquiry there was into why these career officials at the State Department would have filed false affidavits with me. I don't know the details of why the Justice Department lawyers did not know false affidavits were being filed with me, but I was very relieved that I did not accept them and that I allowed limited discovery into what had happened. So this is amazing here. So this judge is now going after Justice Department lawyer Robert Prince and said Prince was using doublespeak and playing the same word games Clinton played. So Judge Lamberth said he was shocked, dumbfounded, when he learned that the FBI had granted immunity to former Clinton Chief of Staff Cheryl Mills during its investigation into the use of Clinton's server. So this is unbelievable of what is coming out now. Now, the deep state, they are definitely panicking. And you can see with Khashoggi and most likely maybe another event They are trying to redirect everything because the house of cards, it is coming down upon them. And we'll be getting into Khashoggi in just a minute, but I wanted to talk about this illegal migrant caravan that is marching towards the borders. And we know that Trump was out there saying, listen, he's going to stop payments to all the different countries if these countries don't stop these individuals. And we see right now that the caravan has swelled to over 4,000 people, and this caravan is marching towards the borders. And we know yesterday when we put up the video of these people handing out cash to individuals to join the caravan, this is why it's growing. I mean, this is a deep state mission to put pressure on Trump. Now, let's think about this for a second so we can start to put all this together. And remember, Q said they're going to use the sky is falling narrative. Now, let's think about what's happening here. The deep state has this caravan coming up to the south, which puts pressures on the borders, which Trump has to react to. We have Khashoggi right now, who is allegedly murdered in the Saudi consulate, and all the mainstream media, they're pushing a certain agenda. We have these two things happening at the same exact time. And then you have all the other mainstream media stuff that they continually put out there with everything else. Now, Trump tweeted out in regards to this caravan, and he said the following: I am watching the Democratic Party led assault on our country by Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, whose leaders are doing little to stop this large flow of people, including many criminals, from entering Mexico to U.S., in addition to stopping all payments to these countries, which seem to have almost no control over their population. I must, in the strongest of terms, ask Mexico to stop this onslaught, and if unable to do so, I will call upon the military and close our southern border. The assault on our country at our southern border, including the criminal elements and drugs pouring in, is far more important to me as president than trade or the USMCA. Hopefully Mexico will stop this onslaught at their northern border. All Democrats fault for weak laws. Now, Mexico is sending more troops to their borders trying to stop this because we know the newly elected president in Mexico, he's on the same page as Trump, and he's taking his military and moving them to the borders to try to stop all this. And we see at this point that all of this is happening at once, and the deep state is putting a lot of pressure on Trump, trying to make him crack and push their agenda. So right now, the sky is falling. When people are looking at this, you can't believe what is going on here. So when we see what's happening, we know that a lot of countries, they're pulling away from Saudi Arabia. The IMF is not going to attend the investment summit. Mnuchin is out there. He tweeted saying, just met with at real Donald Trump and Secretary Pompeo, and we've decided I will not be participating in the Future Investment Initiative Summit in Saudi Arabia. Now, a very sparse statement with no indication of why this is, because as we know, Trump and Pompeo say that Saudi Arabia and Turkey, they're still investigating. The investigation is not over. So the New York Times was out there, and they said that the Saudis transferred $1 million to the U.S. State Department during this Khashoggi crisis. And they're saying this is very suspicious. It must have been a payoff. Well, no, we have the envoy, Brett McGurk. He's out there saying, nope, the specific transfer of funds has been long in process and has nothing to do with other events or the secretary's visit. The thing is, this was already done months in advance. Doesn't matter when the payment comes. They already decided that this $100 million was going to be used for Syria. And this was already in the works. So this is not a payoff. Everyone knew about it. It's not like he put, money on a pallet, put it on a plane, and shipped it off to Iran. Oh, wait, Obama did that. Behind the scenes, Congress knew nothing about this. Congress knew all about this. So the New York Times is trying to push this out there and use projection because guess what? This is what the deep state did in the past. Now, what's very interesting, a 31-year-old lieutenant in the Saudi Royal Air Force who may have not or may have participated in the killing of Jamal Khashoggi died in a suspicious car accident. Now, this is very interesting because this reeks of the deep state, of the CIA. Get rid of those individuals that are part of an operation. Now, of course, the New York Times, the mainstream media, they're all out there saying that these are the individuals and they worked for the Crown Prince. Well, how do we know this for sure? Just because they're telling us this doesn't mean it's true, because we know it's fake news. I mean, they found passports after the World Trade Center came down and they said, these are the people. Does that mean it's true? No, because later on we found out it wasn't. And we know this is how they push their operation. They have all the answers to every question about what has happened here. So Trump tweeted out the following. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo returned last night from Saudi Arabia and Turkey. I met with him this morning, wherein the Saudi situation was discussed in great detail, including his meeting with the Crown Prince. He is waiting for the results of the investigation being done by the Saudis and the Turks, and just gave a news conference to that effect. And pretty much that's what Pompeo said. So we can see that they're looking into this into this murder. They're investigating it. Now, remember, you hear the news out there about the U.S. intelligence agencies where, yes, they're corroborating this story. Yes, they have the information. Now, remember, this is not the military intelligence. This is the deep state intelligence. Remember when Trump was first coming into office? I don't know how many people remember this. And he was talking about how he wasn't going to be going to these briefings where the U.S. intelligence gives him the information. He said he was going to sidestep this because he was really getting the intelligence from military intelligence. That's where he gets his information. He doesn't depend on the CIA, the FBI, and the rest. So he's using different intelligence than what the deep state wants him to use because, of course, they wanted to mold him and push him in a certain direction. So the U.S. intelligence, they're saying they're increasingly convinced the Saudi prince ordered Khashoggi's killing. So remember, the U.S. intelligence, the CIA, FBI, and whatever other agency that's out there. And they're saying that Trump is rebelling against the U.S. intelligence community. And they're suggesting that he should give the intelligence community everything that he has so they can analyze it. Now, this is very interesting. And we need to think, is the U.S. intelligence community, the CIA, FBI, are they having a regime change right in front of us under our noses? I mean, think about what they're doing here. I mean, that's just part of the agenda. Remember, there was a coup and the Crown Prince came into power. Now it seems that they want him out. And they also are putting pressure on Trump, which we'll get to in a minute. So American intelligence officials are increasingly convinced that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia is culpable in the killing of the dissident journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Intelligence agencies have not yet been able to collect direct evidence of the prince's involvement. So they're kept out of the loop. And remember, I don't think the FBI is down there investigating to, hide, cover up everything else. And I think this is why Trump and Pompeo are saying, yes, we need a couple more days. We're looking into it and we're going to find out what happened here. So the intelligence agencies, they have growing circumstantial evidence of the prince's involvement, including the presence of members of security detail and intercepts of Saudi officials discussing a possible plan to detain Mr. Khashoggi, according to these individuals, which will remain anonymous. So they have nothing, just like the Russian collusion conspiracy. Pretty much what they did was they made this up. So Trump is depending on the military intelligence right now. And what's very interesting is that New York Times came out and they said, and they dropped this information late yesterday, and they published a report claiming that U.S. intelligence agencies believe Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman gave the order to murder and dismember a former Saudi insider turned critic inside the kingdom's consulate in Istanbul. The New York Times is now saying the Saudis have selected a scapegoat who will most likely take the fall for the killing of the Saudi journalist. Anonymous officials with knowledge of the Saudis' plan said the kingdom is close to blaming General Ahmed al-Asiri, a high-ranking intelligence official and advisor to the Crown Prince, as the man responsible for masterminding the plot. So the New York Times is being fed this information from who? The same people they're always fed from. The CIA, FBI, and the rest. It looks like they're the ones who created this entire operation. Because think about, how is it possible they know all this information before the actual investigation is done? I mean, they knew it way ahead of time before there was any investigation. They knew all the players, they knew the times and places, they knew who's going to say that he's responsible. This is their story. So then we hear from John Brennan. And here we go. John Brennan says the United States government is working with Saudi Arabia to concoct a story about the fate of Khashoggi. He also said that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and the White House knew what happened to Khashoggi. He also said, it seems now we're in this surreal and morally horrific situation in which the White House and the Saudis seem to be trying to sort this whole thing out and figure out what story they can come up with that they can both have plausibility for Mohammed bin Salman. Brennan also called on the CIA and other U.S. intelligence agencies to hand in their evidence to Congress so that lawmakers could scrutinize the White House over its role in the alleged cover-up. And he went on to say, that's why it's so important for the intelligence agencies and CIA to fully brief the intelligence committees on the Hill so that they have full insight into what happened there and they can then hold the administration's feet to the fire. So who is behind this? I mean, it sure does sound like it's Brennan and the crew. Now, Brennan also said the following. If Khashoggi is found dead at the hands of the Saudi government, his demise cannot go unanswered by the Trump administration, by Congress, or by the world community. Ideally, King Salman would take immediate action against those responsible, but if he doesn't have the will or the ability, the United States would have to act. That would include immediate sanctions on all Saudis involved, a freeze of U.S. military sales to Saudi Arabia, suspension of all routine intelligence cooperation with Saudi security services, and a U.S.-sponsored UN Security Council resolution condemning the murder. The message would be clear. The United States will never turn a blind eye to such inhumane behavior, even when carried out by friends, because this is a nation that remains faithful to its values. Well, where were you, Brennan, when Saudi Arabia was bombing Yemen? Nowhere to be found. Killing innocent children, women, men. Nowhere to be found. How about all the human rights abuses? So all of a sudden, he's coming out with this message. What does this tell you? This tells you they're pushing an agenda. This tells you they are behind this. Now, hopefully, this is a dead end, and Trump, the administration, the military intelligence, they have the information they need of who actually did this. Now, Trump came out and said something very interesting. Trump says the missing Saudi journalist, Khashoggi, appears to be dead. Trump told reporters saying there would be severe consequences for whoever is behind it. Now, he didn't say if it's Saudis are behind it. It's whoever is behind it. That leads me to believe he knows exactly who did this. He knows, the military intelligence knows, they all know who was responsible for this and how the plan was laid out. And we'll have to see how this unfolds here, because we could see their plan. Their plan is to push this agenda. And if this does work and the deep state gets their way, well, Trump, the Patriots, they're going to have a big problem. But I believe they are smarter than that. They have the information. And this is why Trump has been so calm, relaxed, saying, hey, let's see the investigation. Let's wait. Let's give them a couple more days. Let's see what's really going on. Because I think what they're doing is they're gathering information and showing exactly what happened and who was behind it. Remember, if we go back to Q, they've been tracking these individuals, following these individuals. They know exactly what they're up to. And the whole story of having a 15-man team come in, being photographed all over the place with planes coming into the embassy, knowing exactly who it is. I mean, this sounds like a setup right from the beginning to push their agenda. Now, Putin is out there, and he said, and he finally weighed in on all of this, and he said the disappearance of Khashoggi, is a terrible thing. But Russia doesn't have enough information about the incident to justify spoiling their relationship with Saudi Arabia. So they're not doing anything at this time. They're sitting back, watching the whole thing unfold. So here we are, and you can see that the deep state is putting a lot of pressure on the Trump administration, and we knew that they weren't going to sit back. We knew they were going to have and push certain events, trying to change the narrative, trying to box Trump and the Patriots in. But once again, I do believe Trump, the military intelligence, they know exactly what's going on, and they know exactly how to counter this, and we'll have to watch this whole thing unfold. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.